In 2008, Lucas Ordonez won the first GT Academy competition, an online event with 25,000 competitors from 12 countries to test the idea that a Gran Turismo driver could become a competitive driver in real life. This event seemed to be a one-off, but Lucas was a very talented driver. When Gran Turismo 5 was released in 2010, there was a booklet inside of the game detailing how anyone could become an actual race car driver by winning this new competition called GT Academy. This was the first time that I had heard about it, and it got me really excited. I had wanted to drive race cars for nearly a decade at this point, but I had become aware that it would cost over $100,000 per year to compete even in the low-level divisions that only hardcore motorsports fans even knew existed. I didn't even have an actual car or a driver's license yet. How could I ever afford to compete for real? This was my chance. This was our chance as sim drivers. The second GT Academy was hosted on Gran Turismo 5 as an event in the game in 2010. 1.1 million drivers from 17 countries entered the competition. In the end, Jordan Tresson from France would be awarded the seat in the 2012 24 Hours of Le Mans, joining Lucas Ordonez into the GT Academy winner circle. He would also drive the Nissan R35 GT3 car around the world in the Blancpain Endurance Series. Now onto the 2011 event. This would be the first year that there would be more than one winner, and this is the year that the movie is about. This was the first year that the USA was eligible. 53,000 players from the United States would compete in the challenge for 32 slots. 32 drivers would be given the opportunity to race professionally, and I placed in the top 10,000, but I didn't put a lot of effort into it because I was too young and I was ineligible to win. In Europe, 90,000 drivers from 10 countries competed. 12 of them would advance to the finals and be mentored by 6 professional race car drivers, including Lucas Ordonez, Sabine Smits, Johnny Herbert, and 3 others. One of the 12 finalists was Jan Mardenborough from the UK. Jan is the driver that is featured in the movie. The competition was broadcasted as a reality TV show / documentary on YouTube, and it was absolutely brutal. The competition was designed to break the gamers in both body and spirit to determine who was the strongest. For 2012, the USA would join in on the competition for the second time. 32 Americans would be allowed to compete in the final round of the competition. I was a few months too young to be eligible to win, but I still wanted to see where I would stack up. I logged into the servers on GT5 and did endless laps around Montegui. There were more than 400,000 entries this year, and I was within the top 10,000 again. Not an excellent result, but maybe I could try again next year. Stephen Doherty took the championship in the US this year. I asked him what his favorite part of the competition was, and he replied, "The dogfight was the turning point. It sort of changed the whole course of the competition for me at that point, to myself and to everyone else. My attitude and confidence changed right there from thinking that I would be going home to I can win and will win this. That would be my favorite part, other than winning the race, of course." He followed up his GT Academy win with excellent showings in the Blancpain Endurance Series and the R35 GTR. The race he was looking forward to the most was the 24 Hours of Spa, and in 2013, he made it. But unfortunately for Steven, the car broke 30 minutes into the race and he never got a chance to drive in the race. He would also be shifted into a different series for the 2014 season and never get to return to the 24 Hours of Spa. A bombshell article dropped in 2013. GT Academy drivers were banned from the British GT Championship for winning too much. This is what happens when the most talented drivers are put behind the wheel instead of the most funded drivers. This year, GT Academy would not be part of GT5, but would instead be a demo for Gran Turismo 6. This year, I was finally eligible, and I placed in the top 2500 if I recall correctly. A decent improvement. This year, for the USA, 32 drivers would be invited to compete in the final event. Judges Danny Sullivan and Boris Said ultimately chose Nick McMillan as the winner. He would also go on to compete in the Blank Pan Endurance Series. 2014, a new year and a new game. We finally had the official release of Gran Turismo 6, and like clockwork, come June, we were able to set our best lap times. This year we would race a virtual GT3 R35 around Spa. During the competition, I was able to place within the top 250 overall for the United States. This edition of GT Academy had a really cool feature where you could check the controllers that everyone was using, and everyone in the top 100 was using a Logitech G27 controller, and I was only using a DualShock 3 controller. I was the 11th fastest driver in the USA with a DualShock 3 controller, and I knew that if I wanted to win, I was going to need to acquire a G27. There was a small change in the finals this year, as the number of USA finalists would be reduced from 32 to 28 and would be replaced by 4 Canadians. Nicholas Hammond won the 2014 GT Academy North America. 2015 was looking to be a great year. Nissan was entering LMP1 with a radical front-wheel drive design that was like a backwards delta wing, and engineers from all over the internet explained why this design was genius. Everyone was excited. GT Planet sponsored a new league called Gran Turismo Planet Endurance Series. GT Academy drivers were winning all around the world, and again, like clockwork, we were able to set our lap times. For this year, the USA would not have 32 final entries, but only 20 final entries. This was because we would compete against 80 other drivers from 4 other regions, including Australia. With my new G27 in hand, I created a playlist consisting of 3 songs on repeat: Lose Yourself by Eminem, Darude Sandstorm, and The Top from Initial D, and every day for 8 to 10 hours a day, I lapped Le Mans in the LMP1. I was able to place very high as the top 5, about halfway through qualifying. My time would then drop out of the top 10 and then the top 15. But I was able to improve my time by a tenth, and then I would be back into the top 10 again. But then the progress came to a screeching halt. I had blue sectors in every sector, and I could make my lap half a second faster, but hours and hours, day after day, I couldn't do it, and my results were slipping. I was too stressed out and I could no longer focus. When the competition closed, I was in 32nd place. If this had been the prior year, I would have won, but again, this year's entries were reduced to 20. I went to GT Planet and conversed with my fellow neckbeards on who was eligible, who was underage, and who didn't want to go, etc. Roughly 8 drivers were ineligible, and the call never came. Sitting just outside of the new cutoff, I was very disappointed. Definitely next year I would make it. I watched the reality TV show, so similar to which that is shown in the movie trailer, and my friends were losing one by one until there was only one race left. Ryan Lynch would represent the United States in the final race, but Matt Simmons of Australia would go on to win.
The fight is done. We lost.
Nissan would then go to Le Mans to embarrass themselves, spending $250 million developing a car that was missing critical parts and had severe performance issues and couldn't even finish the race.
He said he was stuck in 3rd gear, but the engine must have died for him to not be able to get it back. And then it caught fire, and then when they tried to tow it, which is really weird, the rear wheels were stuck on, which there shouldn't be anything to stop the rear wheels from holding apart from the brakes, and he didn't have a brake problem, so something's gone on, but it's not looking good.
The LMP1 car saw some additional improvement, and there was evidence to suggest that it was actually improving, and we remained hopeful for a short time, but then it got quiet. Too quiet. Nissan canceled the LMP1 program, and then the rumor started. GT Academy drivers were not getting their contracts renewed. Nissan had over-invested in motorsports and they couldn't sustain that level of spending. One by one, the drivers retired. Jan and Lucas, the most successful and experienced GT Academy drivers, were able to go the furthest, but even multinational corporations can't afford to sustain a racing team. The 2016 GT Academy would only be available in 6 regions: Australia, Thailand, Indonesia, North Africa, Mexico, and the Philippines. 2016. The final edition of GT Academy would get a bit weird. Gone were the online time trials that we had become accustomed to, and in its place were GT Sport demos set up in shopping malls. Mo Raffet was one of the competitors. In 2015, Egypt would only take the top 10 drivers, and he had come in 11th. He thought that he was destined to win the 2016 edition of GT Academy, so he slept in parking lots waiting for the opportunity to set the optimal lap time. But once the event started, he observed that the moderators were allowing competitors to do wall riding, an unprofessional gaming technique that would have disqualified drivers in previous years. 8 drivers from Egypt would be advancing to the finals, and Mo placed 9th. Johnny Gindi also competed in the 2016 GT Academy from the Mexico region. He was very happy that the time trials were held in person because he had never owned a copy of Gran Turismo and he had to learn on the fly at the mall. In Mexico, they were policing wall riding, but a few minor taps were allowed, and Johnny would go on to win the 2016 GT Academy International event. At the 24 Hours of Dubai in 2017, Jan managed to qualify the 370Z in P2, but there were a lot of mechanical issues, including 2 broken rear wishbones, a puncture, and an alternator problem. There was also a minor crash due to the ABS accidentally being turned off during a driver change. The 2017 24 Hours of Dubai would be Johnny Gindi's last race with Nissan. GT Academy was unofficially over.